thyself is to love thyself, is to examine, observe, and respect thyself. It's an ongoing process, never to be explained in a brief synopsis. It's a preoccupation with reflection and revelation that can only be achieved through discipline and determination.
Hello and welcome to the Encouraging Word Show. I am your host, Jamila, Freelain, and it is a pleasure for you to be watching today. It's a pleasure for me to have you as an audience member as well. Now, for today's show, I have somebody really special here. Her name is Consuela Hall, and we're going to be talking to her a little bit about a book that she's recently written. We're going to talk about her particular college and career path and the journey that she's been on, and we're going to talk a lot about college tips or college prep tips as well. Now, for those of you who may be just watching the show for the first time, let me give you a little bit of a background. Now, for this show, the Encouraging Word Show, was really birthed out of or was inspired by a book that I wrote called Free Money for College. And the whole purpose behind this book was to be a resource, a tool that students and parents could go to prepare their minds and their finances as well on how to best prepare for the college or career path that they may be on. So that's what came out of this particular book, is the inspiration for this show. And as a result, that's the objective of this show, or there's several objectives. I want to inspire students and parents. I also want to make sure that I provide financial literacy tips for knowing how to best prepare and to plan for college and career preparation, and then to also help you understand how to reduce some college costs as well. So those are the purposes really behind the book. And again, I'm always, as you guys know, interested in how people really got their start. So I want to jump right in here and talk about Consuela's background and that sort of thing, and then we're going to also jump in the second half and talk about her magnificent book called The Pursuit. So you're very welcome. So Consuela, tell me a little bit about your journey. Like, you're not originally from North Carolina. You're from Georgia originally, right?
I am actually from Alabama.
Oh, Alabama.
To be quite honest with you, I am from a small town, and I definitely have to give a plug to my hometown.
All right.
Childersburg, Alabama. It's 30 miles east of Birmingham. I know no one has probably heard of it, but that's totally fine. I believe that great things have actually come out of that town. But yeah, pretty much, I am actually from Childersburg, Alabama. I have actually had the opportunity to actually go to Chicago on scholarship.
Okay, what school was it?
University of Illinois, Chicago.
Okay.
You actually went to University of Illinois.
Right, which is the founding school.
Right, absolutely. And so we're the sister school.
Yes.
And I think, we're definitely kind of on the charts, on the radar. I don't know how we're looking from a statistical perspective. But I know we definitely kind of have that in common. Then after that, I was actually in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, back up for a second, though.
Let's back up.
How did you end up? I know you ended up, like you said, you were a student athlete. What sport again did you play?
I played basketball, the great sport. There is no other sport outside of basketball, but I actually had the opportunity to actually go on a full scholarship, and I actually played point guard with the University of Illinois at Chicago.
So you were really good.
I think I had a very strong work ethic. Okay. I don't think I was ever the greatest player on the court, but I was definitely kind of had a different mentality, kind of that strong work ethic that I definitely think opened a lot of doors. Always the first person in the gym, always the last person in the gym, as well, the last person to leave. So I've always kind of had the mentality that I would definitely outwork you.
Well, persistence paid off.
Yeah,
of course.
absolutely.
You had a full ride, and that's actually what Michael Jordan used to say when he was actually playing ball. Is a lot of times he'd be the first one in the gym and the last one to leave. So when it really comes down to it, a lot of times it's your dedication. That sort of thing. So help me out, because obviously you had skills. You had mad skills, but. How did you end up going to Chicago? Because that's a long way from Alabama. So what was that transition like?
I'll be honest with you. I just believe it was all God. I believe that there's no coincidence. Right. I believe life happens, not necessarily to us, but for us.
Okay.
And so I believe that doors are always opening. Life is always happening.
That's so
if that
true.
Makes any sense. And so, I was definitely kind of in prayer. I was from a small town. I wanted to play kind of Division I, which I was really kind of afforded the opportunity to do so. And then I, just wasn't being recruited by, the University of Alabama, I think, was very popular.
Okay.
University of Auburn was also very popular. Mississippi State,
Great
Georgia,
schools.
things of that nature. I just never really necessarily had the opportunity. And I was just kind of in prayer. I'm just like, hey, whatever any door that opens,
for you.
Hey, let's kind of go with it.
Okay.
And so I really believe that it was just really kind of a divine connection that really kind of took place.
Okay.
Was really kind of offered a full scholarship, received a phone call. I actually played AAU basketball during the summer and really kind of got the exposure that I pretty much needed from a lot of the college scouts and things of that nature.
Okay. And tell me, how long were you part of an AAU league? Were you there, was that 9th through 12th grade, or did you
actually I only played for about 2 years. And so for me it was definitely great experiences, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
But I think for me, my parents, we kind of got started a little late.
Gotcha.
The recruiting was, it's like,
kind of foreign.
Yeah,
maybe?
like what is it like? Hey, I'm here.
Right.
What do you mean? What else do you need? And so I didn't necessarily kind of, just kind of attract kind of the college recruits and things of that nature.
Gotcha.
Kind of being from a small town, and so I think my mom definitely, and my father as well. They kind of saw my frustration and was like, hey, she's really passionate about the game, about the sport.
Right.
And so I wasn't necessarily being recruited, and so we really kind of sought out some other avenues to really kind of assist kind of with the recruitment efforts as well.
Right, and apparently you did a great job, because not everybody is blessed to have a full ride.
Absolutely.
So what was that transition like, going from the Southeast, I guess that would be with South, and then going to the Midwest? Because I know that I've definitely experienced the difference, but I'm coming from the Midwest to the South. So what was that like, coming from the South to the Midwest and adapting to that?
Right. I would definitely say you said the correct word, adapting. Yeah, absolutely. It was a huge adjustment. If you allow me to be completely transparent, I'm from Alabama. It was a small town. I get to Chicago, and a huge culture shock. And if you all kind of allow me to tell my story, I actually, of course, I went on a basketball scholarship. I was really close kind of with the coaching staff, all of that. Maybe about 3 months kind of within, I'm like, Coach, we need to have a one-on-one. We need to talk about this. And so I stated, hey, I'm really thinking about transferring.
Wow.
I kind of want to get out of here. I'm from a small town. This is a lot. It's a culture shock. A lot of the stuff that I'm seeing, I was not exposed to.
Right.
And so it was really kind of tough early on to really kind of make the adjustment. But I also kind of remembered when my mother, when it was time for me to leave, she didn't really kind of say that, hey, you have the option to come back if it doesn't necessarily work.
Oh, that wasn't even put
out there. That was not part of the conversation. It was kind of
that
like,
was not the agreement.
we need for you to kind of figure this out. And so college for me, kind of growing up kind of in our household, and I'm the youngest of 3. College was not an option for us.
Right.
We, it was, hey, college or
the expectation was set already.
Absolutely. So the decision was already made up. Our path was already kind of shaped, if that makes any sense.
Right. And I think it's so important that you mentioned those two things there. One is because a lot of times people, when they're sending their son or daughter off, or even if it's a student that's watching the show, they don't realize it is an adjustment. Absolutely. Especially if you're going from region to region, or heck, if you're going to school in your backyard. At the end of the day, college in and of itself is an adjustment, and it's about getting a mindset, getting your mindset ready as well.
Absolutely.
The other piece is you mentioned that it was a given that you were going. In sales, they call that I forget it. It's like the anticipated close or whatever.
Right. Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
it was already set. They set the tone for you, and so often I think that sometimes students or parents just kind of leave it up to chance. You have to set the expectation.
Absolutely.
Now, if the student doesn't go, or if a 4-year school doesn't seem to be the right plan, then sometimes it might be a trade school, sometimes it might be licensing or certification for a certain path. But again, at the end of the day, as you've mentioned, and I think it's very critical for people to get this particular point, is that the expectation has to be set for that to happen, for there to be some success.
Right, absolutely. And I think, so important, I just think, the decision and how everything worked out was really just so divine. If that makes any sense. And I had really kind of a phenomenal coaching staff, phenomenal teammates, and we're all still cool to this day. And so, even with the experience and really having to make the adjustments and really kind of adapting and really kind of shifting the mind, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
That's pretty much kind of what it was. I remember, after having the conversation, I think, with my coach.
Okay. Because I was going to ask what
absolutely.
happened.
He pretty much stated, hey, either you can kind of grow up, make the decision to grow up now, or either life is going to happen to you later.
Okay.
And so it was really kind of one of those that at the end of the day, you cannot escape life and making adjustments and making the decisions that you really need to really kind of position you for now for what you actually desire to do later.
Wow. Yeah. I think that was so eloquently put. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. See, I can tell you're a writer.
Thank you.
No, so that was great then. Yeah. So then you graduated, and then you went on to do what?
Yeah, so let me just be very clear. Chicago is the Windy City, and y'all, when I say that you have to experience it for yourself, like you literally have to experience it for yourself. And so I knew the last day of graduation that I was going to relocate. And so I relocated to Atlanta. I wanted to be closer to family. I'm very family focused. And so I wanted to be closer to family. I actually started to kind of apply for different positions. I was very strategic. I think kind of, as I was really kind of searching for different organizations and things of that nature, just because I always had kind of a long-term plan kind of in place. And so I really kind of landed this phenomenal job kind of with a dynamic organization there in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was actually with them for a good 12 years before I actually resigned. But it was definitely kind of in the healthcare industry. One of the top organizations there with Emory, or I just said the name, and I was actually trying not to do that.
Okay, with an organization.
Right, with an organization there in Atlanta. And so that pretty much kind of started my pursuit.
Now, you mentioned you started off then in Atlanta in healthcare. Was that related to your major at all?
It was not. I was a double major. And I was crazy, but I was able to get it done, also kind of having the scholarship as well. But I actually majored in communication and psychology. And I actually went on. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was debating if I wanted to kind of go into journalism. I think I started to kind of get in my core classes, and I'm like, maybe there's some other options for me. And then, of course, psychology. I just love people. I love the heart of people. I think it's the pulse.
And that shows.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And so I definitely just kind of explored kind of that avenue kind of as well, just kind of picked up kind of another major. And so I was fairly aggressive, I think, kind of in undergrad. After I actually landed the position with the dynamic organization, they actually offered 80% tuition reimbursement. That also kind of provided me the opportunity to actually go on to grad school for my master's in business administration with the concentration in general management.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that information about your background and just kind of the path you took from being a student athlete up through the completion of your bachelor's degree, and then how you progressed and began to embark on your career as you moved to Atlanta. So what we're going to do is actually come back from the break, and you guys stay tuned, because I want you to come back and, well, you stay tuned so you won't go anywhere. But when we come back from the break, though, we're going to dive into this book, and we're going to get to talk to Consuela about the pursuit and what that really means and how that can help you on your particular path as well.
Awesome.
Buttercup STEAM Camp is a unique week-long adventure for girls ages 7 to 12 to learn, build, and code in a fun and supportive environment. Students work hands-on creating steampunk-themed projects that incorporate elements of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Registration is now open for Spring Break Camp, April 2nd through the 6th. Please visit buttercupsteam.io for more information.
And Consuela, we want to jump right in and talk about your book, The Pursuit. First of all, I love the name. So The Pursuit means you're on your way somewhere. You got some place to be. You got a destination. So for someone who's, whether they're embarking on a career path or a college path, tell us how this book can help them to think outside the box and really get on their way. You've got several principles. I read the book over Christmas break. It was wonderful read. And I'd love you to jump right in and tell a little bit about how this could help somebody that's on the path.
I think this book is definitely for anyone who's really considering, who is really kind of contemplating, how do I actually start my pursuit? Where do I start? Where do I begin? And I really try to, or what I tried to do, or one of the goals for the book was to really try to simplify a lot of the principles that I learned personally as I've actually journeyed.
Okay.
And so I think it's pretty much kind of applicable to anyone who says, hey, I'm getting, I'm much older. Yes. Maybe this is too late for me to actually get started. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, I'm young, kind of in my pursuit. And, I don't necessarily know what I want to do, but hey, I do have dreams, I do have goals,
right.
I have some visions and the ambitions that's really kind of attached to who I am. Mm-hmm. And I definitely want to really kind of bring them to life, if mm-hmm. that makes any sense. And so it really kind of, I think, really kind of markets to a lot of individuals kind of mm-hmm. where you are. And one of the reasons that I personally kind of wrote the book is because, I think I was starting to become just a little frustrated. Mm. I think that there was just, there was a Gallup poll taken by NBC maybe a couple of years ago, really? That pretty much stated that about 70% of individuals are either actively disengaged or just pretty much, let me translate this for you, or just kind of downright unhappy with their career choices.
Wow, 70% of people?
70%, absolutely.
That's everybody.
And so, right, absolutely. And so goodness. You think about the human condition.
Yeah.
You think about, how we treat each other, just kind of the human condition, just our human relationships.
Yes.
And I'm a little nervous, I'll be quite honest with you, and that's really kind of, I'm shifting more so kind of into that work of how can we be better individuals to one another, and things of that nature. But then also that staggering statistic, also
I'm shocked.
It also kind of helped, just kind of another translation of that mm-hmm. was pretty much individuals settling for a life mm-hmm. that, and also or becoming so, I guess, stagnant kind of in a place mm-hmm. that is good enough for their past, but it wasn't necessarily, or it's not good enough for your future.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Again, the pursuit.
Absolutely. So we mm-hmm. kind of want people kind of trending kind of in a different direction.
Okay.
And I guess my question that I really kind of pose, I think kind of when I'm doing motivational speaking and just kind of seminars and workshops and things of that nature, mm-hmm. how did we get to this place where we allow so much this place of just kind of not necessarily kind of being satisfied or this discontentment.
Okay.
And all of that, why do we get to a place where we're just kind of allowing this to really kind of settle and not necessarily kind of pursuing everything kind of within us? Because at the end of the day, everything in life is going to shake. It's all going to unfold and things are going to move and things. Right, absolutely. But what's in your heart is always going to stand. Mm-hmm. And we never give attention to it.
Right.
And so at this point in the game, I think that we actually have to be in pursuit. We have to actually kind of go after. We have to chase. We can't necessarily, kind of take kind of this comfortable kind of approach of just saying,
and not take things for granted either.
Absolutely.
If you were to pass away today, did you live a happy life?
Right.
And according to you, 70% of folks.
Right. Absolutely.
In that number. So,
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we want to really kind of shift past that place.
Wow.
Not just existing. But we really want to give our life meaning and really kind of live with a life or live a life of significance.
Okay. So I see your book as something that can help people to motivate them out of complacency, number one, absolutely. And then also to give them insight as to how they can embark on pursuing what it is that they're most interested in.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's so many angles, to be quite honest with you. I know that we're really talking about education, and I'm going to try to kind of blend it or kind of tie it in to make certain that there's really kind of a direct correlation somewhere and kind of what we say. But, one of the things that I really kind of want to talk about, from an educational perspective, of course, I had the opportunity to really kind of pursue, my undergrad and also graduate degree. Does that necessarily mean just because you do not go to college or a 4-year institution or a graduate degree and things of that nature that you're not necessarily worthy?
Right, and I say that all the time.
Right, to go after your dreams and go after the things that you really want? No, absolutely not. So I want individuals to really kind of be encouraged because, there's so many ways that you can really kind of prepare for your pursuit. And we really kind of lay out a lot of these principles, in the book that will pretty much kind of help. But, self-education, that's one avenue. Individuals may not necessarily kind of have the financial means or either the resources to really kind of pursue kind of a 4-year institution. So you kind of want to take advantage of, the self-education, the knowledge that you can really kind of pick up kind of on yourself, the practical experiences, things of that nature that may possibly kind of be able to assist kind of in your pursuit as well.
Okay. Now, is there a specific element or principle that you think would be best for a student who's in high school or that is college age but is about to embark on their career path? Do you think there's one specific, and we can flip the book.
You're totally fine. One of the principles that I talk about is there's an inappropriate way to pursue an appropriate goal, or either to pursue an appropriate thing. And so there are so many ways, I think, to really just kind of pursue. And so, I really kind of want to stay away from, any right or wrong way to actually kind of pursue, because, we're all unique. Right. And we all have to kind of create our own path, and we have to trust that path. If that makes any sense.
I agree.
And so there is kind of an inappropriate way to pursue something that you really want, something that is right, something that you're really going after. And that can necessarily be the right thing, but how I go about it can definitely kind of be inappropriate.
Can you give me an example?
So I think a lot of people pretty much I kind of started my
I'm thinking
absolutely
could very well think they're on the path,
right,
and maybe on a path, but it's not the path that they should be on to get to where they're trying to go.
Absolutely. I think for me, I started my entrepreneurial pursuit in 2012, and so I think a lot of individuals just think, I just walked in and turned in a resignation letter and I'm good,
right?
But I was really kind of executing a strategy from day one. From the first day that I actually received employment from the company that I was working with in Atlanta. So I executed kind of, or I was working.
And were you putting your money aside to have the startup capital for your business?
That is correct. That is correct.
And it's important for somebody to know, because I think sometimes people think, I'll just get a grant and it'll fall together.
Yeah.
And that ain't what happened.
Absolutely. And so pretty much I was kind of executing an exit strategy for the most part. And what I was actually doing, I was actually living off only about 40% of my paycheck. So I was kind of putting or kind of funding, and there are some other funding tips I think kind of in the book that would definitely be very helpful and also very useful. But I was also kind of developing a plan as well. And so, in the interim, I was, utilizing that time. How can I build my knowledge? How can I build my social skills, my human capital, and things of that nature to really kind of assist kind of in the process. So when it's really time for me to really launch my pursuit, I'm not just kind of up and leaving, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. So I think that's a key principle right there in and of itself that most people, or that many people, don't recognize that they need to do in pursuit of whatever their path is, and that's to live below your means.
Absolutely.
So that way when hard times do happen, you don't really have to do much adjustment. It's not a huge transition, because you've already planned for that, and you've got a little nest egg set aside, be it for college, be it for starting your business, whatever it may be. But you've got to be able to strategize, as you said, and that's what the book is about as well.
Absolutely. And so I definitely kind of want to kind of encourage everyone that it's never too late to pursue your dreams, to your goals, and really kind of go after them and things of that nature. But there are, a couple of things I think kind of even as we go after our dreams, we definitely want to be mindful of, you know, hey, what are some of the barriers that we may kind of experience as we really kind of pursue. Right. So everyone tells you, yeah, go after your dreams. Yeah, you know, go after your passion. But no one tells you how to fund your dreams.
Right.
No one tells you to say, you know, hey, you know, is passion going to necessarily keep me there? No, it's enough to get you started. But you need your head and your guts to actually
better
kind
be
of
a burning desire. Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so I kind of like to talk about the passion myth. Okay. Because everyone says, hey, go after it. You know, pursue it all. You know, you can do it all. Okay. Absolutely. But when you know, find yourself this passion myth, it's pretty much, you know, hey, what is it, or what is going to kind of help me get through when all the passion leaves?
Right.
You know, when I have to get up at 2:30 in the morning and I actually, you know, don't hit the bed until maybe 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and I have to do it all over again.
Right.
If I still have to kind of plan I still have to plan and kind of be the janitor today. I have to be the administrative assistant this day. I have to be the accountant the very next day.
Right, because that's the non-glamorous side, but very much the reality of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. And so, you know, even kind of with all of that, I think, you know, so many people just kind of think, you know, hey, I just kind of want to focus on my dreams, and I really just kind of want to fulfill them. Yes, we want to go after them, but we also kind of want to have a plan in place, and we actually want to have a strategy. And I always like to kind of share with individuals, even with my consulting or through my consulting, I try to kind of encourage individuals, yes, go after your dreams, you know, pursue all. But at the end of the day, never pursue without any type of strategy actually being released. If you've never taken the time to really kind of prepare and things of that nature, just because of all the staggering statistics that are really kind of out there. Right. That I think only 10 to about 20% of businesses actually only, you know, succeed after the first year. You know, that's not necessarily kind of a whole lot. Only half of those businesses really succeed or pretty much are no longer kind of in business after 5 years, and only 1/3 of businesses pretty much kind of make it to their 10th year anniversary.
And the statistics are very similar for those that start college, especially four-year schools right out of high school. Very few people finish in the 4 years, even though that's probably, if you're talking about maximizing your time and saving some money, that's rule number 1, 2, and 3. That's rule number 1 through 10, really. But at the end of the day, yes, those statistics a lot of times are low, and much lower than they should be, not because people don't have the gifts, the talents, and the capabilities, but because they failed to plan. So
absolutely.
Now with that, let's transition real quick, because I want to give the people at home some tips. Now, if you are planning on going to, let's say, trade school or a four-year university, one of the things that I emphasize very, very strongly, both in my book as well as when I do a lot of workshops and things for students and parents, is that you need to really be close to your guidance counselor. And the reason that I say that, now, not all guidance counselors are created equally, and every school is a little different. Some schools are resourceful and affluent enough to where they have college and career counselors as well. But get to know your guidance counselor at the very least, especially if you have a good rapport with them. And the reason that I say that is because that person will look out for you if you build a relationship with them. Keep in mind that a guidance counselor may have as many as 300 to 400 students on their caseload. There's no way humanly possible that they can give each one of those people their individualized attention. But guess what? If you have an individual relationship with them, they will look out for you. They will give you the hookup in more ways than one. You know, in terms of things like personality tests. They a lot of times have access and links to free inventories tests and different things, so you can better understand what your skill set is before you get to your junior and senior year of high school. And that's the first slide that you'll see there. Is they oftentimes, again, have access to personality tests and things that you just wouldn't necessarily have at your discretion. Now, a lot of free tests now are offered online, but a lot of times guidance counselors are specifically trained and certified to offer those different tests. As a matter of fact, one of the tests that's very popular right now is called the multiple intelligence test. And if you watch the network often enough, you'll be familiar with Rochelle Gray, who hosts the MI Project is what the show is called, but it's based off the multiple intelligence personality test. So tests like that can really help you. Another thing that you can do when you're working with your guidance counselor is recognize that they oftentimes know about different college and career camps. So things that are going to expose you to exploratory majors and that kind of thing, and learning about different career paths that you wouldn't necessarily have have access to. Your counselor a lot of times will know about different colleges and universities that have different summer camps and that sort of thing, or even organizations in the community. Last but not least, at the end of the day, it's about financing as well. I can't emphasize that enough. When it comes to college, if you have not planned adequately in terms of the financing piece, you will find yourself disappointed oftentimes if you're thinking that everything is going to be a full ride. If you didn't bring some athletic skills or some financial planning to the table, it just is it's a path. It's actually the pursuit. So you want to plan wisely for that. And oftentimes your guidance counselors and even your instructors, for that matter, your teachers, can oftentimes have access to different organizations that are in the community, or maybe that are offered nationally, where there are scholarship dollars that they can tell you about. And again, there are things that you just may not have otherwise had the opportunity to find out about. There's, of course, a lot of online websites and that sort of thing for scholarships now, but guess what? There's nothing better than knowing a person who can personally tell you about this organization or that organization, or maybe they sit on the committee for that particular scholarship. Now that's a vote in your favor right there coming out the gate. Again, at the end of the day, you want to be prepared, and it's all about whatever pursuit it is that you're embarking on. Just know to be prepared, and resources like we have provided today can definitely help you to be on the way. That's my time for today, and I want to end with the poem that I actually start off with in the introduction, and it's basically talking about knowing yourself, and it goes like this: to know thyself is to love thyself, is to examine, observe, and respect thyself, is to check thyself, is to be mindful of the inner voice within thyself, is an ongoing process, never to be explained in a brief synopsis. It's an ongoing occupation that will be filled with self-discovering revelation and could only be achieved through discipline and determination. Thank you for watching the Encouraging Word Show.